Locker room reaction here from Levi's as the 49ers dropped to 5-5, pulled in by that tractor beam of 500. It was gloomy in there, as you would expect. Fred Warner said, "This is not us, but I guess it is us, because if you deliver enough of these types of losses in a season, it's your identity until it isn't." The 49ers have now blown 3 fourth-quarter leads to NFC West teams in losses to these NFC West teams. First, it was the Rams. That was back in week 3. That was at SoFi. Then it was the Arizona Cardinals on this field at Levi's Stadium. And today, it was the Seattle Seahawks. That moves the 49ers to 5-5 on this 2024 season. I just filed my article for the San Francisco Standard. The blame here, football's a complex sport. You have to organize chaos in football. The team that better organizes chaos is the team that is going to win. The 49ers obviously haven't done as efficient of a job organizing chaos as they had in previous seasons. And every single game is a very complex blame game as far as assigning who was most responsible for what went wrong, especially when it's a loss, right? A lot of people always like to simplify it, and they'll throw it on one person or they'll throw it on one player. When you look at a game like this, though, there are degrees of things. The 49ers defense with Nick Bosa gave up 3.3 yards per play, which is excellent, and they didn't give up a single touchdown. That was when Bosa was on the field. Without Nick Bosa, after he got hurt, 6.1 yards per play, which is terrible, and both Seattle touchdowns. So I think when you look at that contextually, you can look at the final drive where Seattle obviously scored with Geno Smith with just seconds left, and you could say, okay, the 49ers defense, they're playing really well until they lost their superstar. The offense needed to carry more weight when that happened, and the offense did not carry that weight today. So when I play that blame game and I assign different levels of responsibility for this loss, I put more of it on the 49ers offense. Then we say, okay, what's wrong with the 49ers offense? Why has it given this feel of everything is hard this year when they're operating with wide open spaces over the past 2 seasons? I mean, really ever since Christian McCaffrey joined the team in 2022, this has been the number 1 offense in all of football. Brock Purdy obviously took it to another level with CMC last year. This year, it's been tough sledding, week in, week out. Even the weeks where they've played better, it hasn't been as smooth as a hot knife through butter as it was in 2022 and 2023. Today definitely matched that description. Only 17 points for the 49ers, only 4.9 yards per play. They were at 7.9 yards per play and 36 points against the Seahawks in October, down to 4.9 yards per play and only those 17 points today. You can talk about personnel issues and differences all you want. Seattle much healthier on defense. This time the 49ers didn't have George Kittle this time or Brandon Ayuk. They had both of those guys healthy in Seattle last time. But that's way too big of a difference, right? Production-wise between the game in October and this one here in November. Plus, they have Christian McCaffrey now, and they didn't have him back then. So when I sift through things and I look at the strategy and I like to see what the 49ers could do better, my gut feeling watching this game was there's just not enough open downfield. They're not scheming up the type of wide swaths of open space that they had schemed up in the past. And you go and look at the separation numbers. They are insanely low for the 49ers. NFL Next Gen Stats tracks separation at the time of the catch. The 49ers rank dead last in the league. This is over a 10-game sample. This is over the entire 5-5 start. The 49ers are averaging only 3.0 yards of separation at the time of catch. I get that it's a limited stat, that it only measures what's happening to the player who's actually catching the football on actual catches, but over a 10-game sample, I think that you can start to really extract some truth from this. Last season, the 49ers ranked number 13, 3.5 yards of separation at the time of catch. This year, it's a full half yard less, and they rank number 32. The other teams that are ranked in the bottom 5 are teams like the Titans, teams like the New York Giants. I mean, bad football teams. The other teams in the bottom 5 are combined 10 and 29. The 49ers are 5 and 5 and they rank last. So go to the article on the Standard. I go through everything here. You could kind of visualize the numbers when you check it out. But the 49ers are the only team in that bottom 5 of average yards of separation at the time of catch that is not a losing team, and they're 5 and 5. And I think that out on the field today, we saw why the 49ers have managed to be 5 and 5 despite this major weakness, despite this major deficiency. And it's because guys like Jauan Jennings are dragging defenders, 4 of them at a time, across the first down marker. I mean, it took superhuman performances from Jauan Jennings, from Brock Purdy when he dove to the pylon for a touchdown. I mean, it's taking extraordinary performances from the 49ers star players to get what they're getting. Nothing is coming easily for this team. And I think that's a huge problem because in a league like this where everybody's good, if you're having to strain and make extraordinary plays on a week-in, week-out basis, some weeks you'll make them. Last week we saw Purdy deliver to Christian McCaffrey and then to George Kittle. But some weeks you won't make enough of them. This week, George Kittle didn't even play. Obviously a problem. If you're leaning on superstars to make superstar plays to save you every single week, it's going to be a big problem when one of those superstars can't play. That's George Kittle. Or when one of those superstars misses almost the entire second half. That's Nick Bosa. I thought that was really symbolic of the 49ers' problems today. Nick Bosa, hip pointer, oblique hip, gutted through it last week when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, made enough plays for them to win the game. Obviously was laboring last week, wasn't his best. Decided to do the same thing this week, and it was going well. Like the week he rested over practice, and it looked like he was good to go. He had 2 sacks in this game, but on the second sack, it turned out that he was overcompensating for the hip pointer injury that was still bothering him, so he injured his other hip. So then both hips, oblique muscles, whichever way you want to look at it, I haven't seen the scans, but it's been called a hip, it's been called an oblique, it's all in the same area. Both sides are not hurt for Nick Bosa. So one problem is seemingly taken care of, appears to be taken care of, and another one pops up. It seems to be that's the trend in this really brutally difficult season for the 49ers. That said, this team is still 5 and 5. They're still 500. They're record-wise, because they've got all these star players doing this star player stuff, they're not where teams like the Tennessee Titans are, teams that have similarly bad separation problems. They're not at that spot. So Kyle Shanahan, I mean, the challenge is on him. I mentioned in the instant reaction, he doesn't have his fastball right now. Shanahan is like a pitcher who's accustomed to throwing 98, but he's only hitting 91 right now. He needs to rediscover his fastball, or he needs to adjust, or the 49ers are going to die this year. They're not dead yet. The margin for error is just now maybe even non-existent. They go to Green Bay next week. Then they go to Buffalo. This is a brutal 2-game stretch for the 49ers. Cold weather, good opponents. Buffalo just beat Kansas City. But the 49ers better find their fastball now. It's like you're facing the middle of the order now for baseball terms. And facing the middle of the order, throwing only 90, if you're used to throwing 98, is a problem. These guys are probably going to square up the ball, and there's going to be some damage. So either the 49ers they're not going to go to a relief pitcher, right? Kyle Shanahan is still going to be the coach next week. He's still going to be the coach against Buffalo. But schematically, over the course of the week, they've got to develop some new ways to attack the opposition, to go out there and be more competitive from the standpoint of making things easier for the offense. You could point to the penalties all day. You can point to, the Seahawks, that they had a nice tipped interception where Hankins, the big man, was able to dive for it. But I think it all does come down to the 49ers having to fit the football into too tight of a window. The answers aren't readily there. Kurt Benkert, who played on the 49ers practice squad, quarterback for them, in 2022, he came out and he tweeted about the fact that the answers are not good enough that are built into the play by Kyle Shanahan for Brock Purdy. The 49ers are not reacting to this aggressive pressure that teams are using more and more after the Chiefs used it successfully in the Super Bowl. The 49ers don't have that built-in answer for Brock Purdy, and that goes back to Kyle Shanahan. They've got to counter-adjust and be better schematically, and when they do that, they're going to be better against pressure, A, and B, when you're better against pressure, they're going to be throwing to more open space downfield because pressure vacates a space. It's an extra blitzer. That's one fewer defender that can guard and pass defense in the back end. That leads to more wide open space, explosive plays. And that's what the 49ers need. They need to cure this offense, and I think it starts from the schematic level. I think that counter adjustments to what opponents have been bringing the 49ers. And today, if we want to get specific, and I'm going to watch the tape, so I'll have a little bit more of this as time goes along. But today, I think that Seattle was sitting on a lot of the shorter routes. They're aggressively pouncing on some of the shorter routes. We saw the one to Christian McCaffrey that Brock Purdy forced in there that was knocked up in the air, was intercepted by Hankins. They took those away, and the 49ers didn't have a counter adjustment to pump fake and go a little bit deeper because I think Seattle also stayed at home on some of the deeper routes. They were able to accomplish two things at once defensively, which means that they're probably running some complex stuff. Mike McDonald has beaten the 49ers before with the Ravens last year, and Shanahan is going to have to delve into his bag of tricks. He's going to have to put on his thinking cap, and he's going to have to find the adjustments that allow the 49ers offense to roll again. Short-term question is, when is Nick Bosa going to be back? Because it appears that the defense needs him to be good and functional, especially without advance notice that he's going to be out. That was tough for the 49ers today. But the other short-term question, I hate to break it to you, it might be a longer-term answer, and that would kill the 49ers season, but maybe Kyle Shanahan can work a miracle, and maybe he can get this offense to adjust schematically before it's too late. And it might be too late if they lose another game. So they're playing the Packers next week. They've got to scheme more space. They cannot be dead last now that Christian McCaffrey is back in average separation. You need more space to work with. You cannot be trying to thread a needle on every single offensive play. This needs to be a setup for more consistently explosive offensive play into open spaces. That's my take on the game. You can leave your thoughts. I probably won't read them, but leave them anyway. We'll talk to you soon.